Okay, so it should be recording now. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. It's great to see people coming in. If you want, and if you'd like, let us know in the chat where you are joining us, where from you are joining us today. We have great content today, as usual. Before I present you our presenter today. I have some how we say, some advice to give you and some news. So just very quickly, for those who are new to our sessions, we are based in Toronto, but the sessions are online and are free, and are anyone in the world can join as long as you are awakened and willing to be with us at this time. Um, we are running the meeting using Teams, as you know. So you can see the icons, the video and the microphone that you can turn on and off. At some point during the session, I might be muting everyone so that there's no interference with the presentation. So if you have questions, you can use this icon, the speech balloon, to type in any questions you have, or you can use the little hand high icon to say that you have a question. Raise your hand, and we should be notified here that someone is wanting to ask something or make a comment. Raim will tell us in a minute what's the best option, what's his preference in terms of questions, if he prefers to leave everything to the end, or if he will be allowing us to interrupting him during the presentation. Okay, so what else? Oh, if there's any problem with the internet, you can just rejoin. If you are, for some reason, Teams just disconnects or something, you can join us later. Same thing with me. Even if I have a problem with internet, Teams should continue to record the session regardless of that. So some information about the next events. We will have an event on November 16th, Build Better Excel Models Faster. It will be Ken Pauls presenting, and he will be showing us a tool that he developed for Power Query to help with analyzing query performance and a lot of other things. So it will be a very interesting one. If you are using Power Query, this is definitely something you should see. And because there's a free version of that tool anyways, with a lot of functionalities that anyone can use. Extracting data from data model with cube functions will be the next topic in December the 2nd, presented by Brent Allen. If you never used cube functions, but you are using the data model and in different situations, it's an interesting feature, or it's good to have the knowledge about cube functions because they can be very handy in some situations as well. Also, if you are intending to do your exam for an Excel certification as an expert. I'm not sure about the exam now for Excel 2019, but for Excel 2016, I know that cube functions were one of the topics that could be part of the questions. Some information about two events that are happening soon. The first one here, I forgot to put the date, but I will bring up the let me see if I can pull up here the web page. So MVP Conf Latam is an event that will happen mostly in Portuguese. There will be some sessions in Spanish and a few sessions in English as well. A lot of different learning path. So we will have Office 365 where Excel and Power Query will be included. I will be presenting there about Power Query. There's Power Tools and there's Azure and all development, all different kinds of things related to Microsoft technology. The interesting, so you see this picture. This was a picture from last year, I believe, 2019, in December last year. Imagine how many people together without masks, and we didn't even have an idea of what was about to come. All the revenue gathered by this event is delivered 100% to charity. And when we purchase our ticket, we get the notification right away saying what was the organization, the not-for-profit organization that our money was sent to. So anyways, it's not for everyone because of the language, but if you are interested, just take a look. It's not, the tickets are not expensive. I have a coupon. I didn't put it here, but I can send that information when I send my email for the session, after the session, okay? Another event that will happen in February was scheduled to happen last April in London. It will happen online after all. These are all the speakers. It will be an amazing event, I believe, and amazing content. Presenters from all over the world, so you may be interested in checking that as well. There will be not only conferences but also master classes happening there. Again, my topic will be about Power Query there. So it's Global Excel Summit. And if you like the session today, if you think that the content you get with our sessions is valuable, that could be interesting for other people, feel free to post something on your social media of your preference, whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, the one, any social media that you may use. Feel free to use the MS Excel Toronto hashtag, and you can tag Excel Basement, which is on Instagram, where it's for our presenter Raim, and Solvent Excel is my handle on Instagram as well. So feel free to join, not to join, to share the news. Okay, Raim, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Sure.
Are you able to turn the camera today or not really?
I can.
Okay, there you are. Great to see you, Raim. Thank you so much for joining us today, Raim. And for those who don't know, Raim is in Pakistan, and it's 2 a.m. for you now,
It's
Raim?
3:40 a.m. Yeah.
3:40. Okay, so it's middle of the night for him. Thank you so much for being available for us at in the middle of the night, Raim. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that I've seen so many different content posted from you or by you on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. You're posting videos all the time, tutorials, and I know that you are running some kind of training on Power BI, Excel. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, it would be great.
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's again, I'm feeling good to have a second time on this platform. So thank you, all the representatives and Celia for having me again. Yes,
Pleasure.
I'm.
Our pleasure.
So for the last 8 years, I have been engaged in the training and consultancy regarding Excel, and now we have also formed a private limited company in Pakistan. So what we are doing exactly is we are providing solution based on Power BI dashboards and Excel dashboards, financial models. We have more than 350 clients all over in Pakistan now. So our teams are really busy in getting all those stuff and giving solutions to the clients on time. So now we are expanding, and we are aligned with the supply chain, banks, pharmaceutical industries within Pakistan. And also we do training to the especially the chartered accountants, ICAP, Institute of Chartered Accountants in Pakistan, and also students regarding the accounting and finance as well. So our main domain is training, consultancy, and then providing the solutions. And the very main part which we are observing now is challenges regarding the data manipulation and transformation, and then converting it into the meaningful reports, either it's MIS reports or the dashboards. So for the last 8 years, we have done so much for within our country, but definitely we have grow globally. And with this COVID, even in the COVID time, we see the opportunity, and we have seen this phase as a positive because we have expanded a lot. So my habit is to share the knowledge with everyone, and it could be any person, either he is on LinkedIn, Facebook, and we are try our level best to share what we learn from the clients. So we share with a different example, and we post videos and pictures and any kind of tips and tricks regarding any formula or any visualizations. So that's why I have a significant presence on social media, and people know me for that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen, and then I guess you will let us know where people can find even your free content if they are starting to learn Excel, and if they um, want to watch your content, then let us know. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So if you want to start, just go ahead. I'm very curious to see the tricks that you have to show us today. Your
Yeah.
last presentation was a success, so very glad to have you on board again.
Yeah, thank you so much. So today we have a very interesting topic again, and that is related to the dynamic charts, how we can create dynamic charts in Excel, and what is exactly the data storytelling. And we are observing that in most of the organizations now, data storytelling is becoming a separate department which is aligned with a data driven. So chief data storytellers and data visualizers are coming up, and they are bringing up some new ideas to make some decisions. So I will be covering data storytelling fundamentals and examples, and then I will cover the dynamic charts in the second part. And at the end of the session, I would like to have any of the participant if they want to ask any question. So the floor will be open for the questions at the end. So let's start. Uh, First, the very basic definition and understanding of data storytelling. So it's the fastest and the easiest way to empower your team to both understand and act on data through the power of stories. So the two main things here is the how to act on data and the power of stories. So definitely the data storytelling comes after when you have a clean data, and we know that every time you don't get the required data as you want to like and manipulate either in Excel or Power BI or any other tool. So data storytelling comes in when you act really good on data, and you share the power of story, and we will cover that how we can do it. One more very famous quotation is that creating effective data visualizations requires learning a new language with a new grammar rules. So definitely data visualizations for every domain is different, and it's a kind of a new language and a new with a new grammar rule. So definitely we need to learn the designing concepts, the designing rules. We have to study a lot about how to uh, mash the data into the visualizations as a dashboard. So there are two approaches: the older way for the data exploration and the new way about the data storytelling. And the differences are very different, because in previously, for the data exploration point of view, you got the numbers and you convert them into the dashboards, but now you are more interesting involving yourself into that story of the business numbers. You spend a lot of hours in exploring the answers by the help of the formulas or any other stuff, but now your explanation get instantly on your application, just like BI. Uh, then you have the generic and standard reports which is sent to everyone, but now you have a reports on a personalized based. And the last is that you don't have that information very fast enough because you engage yourself in cleaning up the data. But now the most important things that how the business are now changing. So data storytelling definitely differentiates with the old approach of data exploration. Now it's very common that our brains are visually attracted by differences. Now the same picture is repeating 3 times in this slide. The first one is with a gray and black color, and then we have put some colors to make more highlight that bear and the trees, and then the last picture is everything is black. So definitely our brains are visually attracted with a different approach, and we focus quickly on a different illustration rather than the same colors. And there is one more rule which I all learned with the passage of time regarding the designing is the CRAP rule, which states that contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So the contrast, repetition, and alignment says that how you can do something different in order to make focus particular attention of your audience regarding report or a dashboard. So it can be a lot of trips and tricks, like you can change the size of that particular object. So you will first focus on a different identity patterns. The second one could be the orientation. So if you can change any object with a different pattern, definitely our brains are designed to identify the pattern first. And then we can change the colors of the objects. Definitely, this will also help our brain to identify a different design pattern first. Now, in this particular example, there is a line chart and there is a title on top, legend on the right side, and we have y-axis and x-axis. Now, in this particular chart, anyone can see any object at the first. Someone will read the header first, someone will observe the line trend first. So our eyes are don't follow a specific order, and to make sure that we follow the specific order, we need some designing rules as well. So first example, so this I have taken this from the Pakistan Stock Exchange website, and every country has a stock exchange. So we know that there are so many sectors have their share prices, and they change on daily basis, and they have the high price and low price, and change either positive or negative. So for example, on our Pakistan Stock Exchange, there are 600 companies has been listed segment wise or the industry wise, and I want to analyze that, which shows a data story, not a simplified chart which is the column chart or a line chart, but I want something different to be analyzed, or in a meaningful way. So what I can do is I can take the data from that website, which is the market summary, and then I converted this particular information into a data story telling chart, which is the sector bell curve. Now, this particular sector bell curve is showing that in which industries is positive or negative and on what scale. So when you get data, a very big data on these stock exchange websites, and you want to convert them to analyze that where I should invest. So you need something which tells you the story of that entire day, that what has happened in that stock exchange. So I can see here that I can invest in oils, I can go for the banks, or I can avoid something retail sector. So now this particular chart definitely is not presented directly in Excel or any other tool. We need to customize something. We need to think first that how it can be achieved by putting some formulas or conditional formatting or any other thing which could give us an object which tells the story of that particular stock exchange. So this is the first example. We have converted this raw data or a market data into a visual which is telling us a story that what happens on that particular day in the stock exchange. The next thing is that although it's a story in front of us, it's an ECG report of a patient. Now, if any novice user will say that there are some lines, there are four lines going upwards and then going downwards. But to understand the visual better, we need the subject matter experts. So definitely a subject matter expert is required to understand and read that ECG report. So this means that every visual cannot be read by anyone. So for example, if you are from the finance background, so you can better understand the finance visuals. If you are from the supply chain, there could be so many diagrams or charts available, which can be only understood by the person who have studied the supply chain, right? So the visualization or data storytelling objects is also separated as a domain side, where you need the subject matter experts to understand better. Otherwise, it will not be giving you a meaning, or you cannot understand what is happening in this visual as well. All right, so on this slide is again a very common concept is what you see is what you get, right? Now there is a picture here, and if I ask a question from the audience or the participants are attending this session live, so if I ask you that what you see in the picture, so what would be your answer? You can write in the chat window what you see in this picture, or any focus object you would like to mention.
Let's wait a little bit for some answers. Lower row, safes in bank. Someone can, you can imagine like safes, a safe in the bank. Squares,
Okay.
I see circles. Someone says, I can also see circles and rectangles and some lines. It almost gives us an idea of texture and depth,
All
although it
right.
is a
So
2D
yeah.
picture.
Yes.
Furniture, someone says.
All right.
Yeah,
So
Damar, go
yes.
ahead.
So now this concept is all about what you see is what you get. Now that's definitely comes from your experience and your five senses. So whatever you age belong to, whatever you have seen so far in this world, and whatever the knowledge or information you have gathered, definitely you put all that in that particular image to visualize and give the correct answer as much as possible. But there are different perceptions to it. This is just a one picture, but everyone is giving a different answer. Why? Because they are seeing from their perspective. So that's how when you create a visual in any kind of BI tool or in Microsoft Excel in form of dashboard, uh, you see that particular object, but you need to understand the data story, right? And when we change and when we give any narration to the audience, for example, if I tell you that find out circles in this picture, so at the first sight might be most of the people not focus that there are also circles in it, but there were, I guess, two people who gave the answer of circles as well. So yes, when you tell them more, when the data tells you more, when you convert that into visual, you can see a different perspective as well. So yes, there are circles also there, but very few people can focus, very few people can go differently, right? So this is all about what you see is what you get, and that's how you understand the data storytelling objects. Now there is one more interesting example. This bar chart displays the number of tickets received and processed in a year. Now there are 12 months from Jan to December, and tickets volume received are in blue color, and then ticket volume processed are in pink color, right? And we can compare that how many tickets volume receive every month is or higher or lower as compared to ticket volume process. But when I tell that person that extract the data story, extract the story out of it, so this visual is not very much correct for storytelling. It's just simply a comparison of each month with two relevant attributes or the fields. But when I convert this into a correct visual, so now converting that column chart into a line chart, that's bring me an entire different image where I can analyze that from the month Jan till month May, the situation is perfectly fine because whatever the tickets request we were receiving, we were issuing that as well. But after that, there is a gap. And why there is a gap? Because we find out that two employees quit in the month of May, and definitely when the headcount falls, so definitely the performance will get effect. So why there is a gap? Because we get the narration out of that story, and which brings to make decision in a easier way as compared to the last object, which is the column chart, right? So now as an dashboard user or any visualization tool user, we should learn not just to create visual, but also to create the correct visual and also to extract the narrations and the reasoning out of that visual as well, which tells you something, some story out of that. Okay. One more example. There is a survey conducted pre and post, and the question was, how do you feel about doing science? So before the poll was conducted, we have certain responses from the students that 11% get bored and 40% feels. But when we conducted that program and we have the post response from the students, definitely the numbers got changed because many people starting liking it. But still, if I ask you that this visual is correct or not, or you find this storytelling visual, so what we have converted that pie charts into again a column chart, which definitely compare each of the response next to each other, and very quickly we can analyze that now 40% people, 38% people are more excited. Before it was 19%, now 38% people are more excited, and some people are also showing a kind of interest which is 30% after the program. So definitely, if we don't choose the correct visual, we will not get that story that what the data is telling you. One more example. uh, Average retail product price per year. Now there are 5 products year by year, right? And I have simply created this column chart. Now, if I ask that, we need to extract the story out of this so that we can make a decision, but we cannot because that's a bit more confusing. But if I convert this column chart into a line chart, so I can do more out of that, and I can also find the reason as well. So which kind of products are going to the average price, or what can be the recommended ranges to offer the price, right? So now you can understand that selecting the right visual and also extracting the narration out of that is the main focus now for the businesses, rather than simply creating and clicking on any of the object in Excel or BI. One more example. There is a pie chart and the question is asked that how interested are you in this product? So we are asking that how many customers are interested, for example, in buying this particular product. So there are multiple responses that 44% are saying not all at all interested, and some are saying moderately interested. But again, still pie charts are not recommended in reports as well. And even when we create 3D pie charts, so in the financial statements, 3D pie charts are also not recommended because that can make a false picture of that numbers as well. If we turn around that 360 degree and we create something 3D, it get more confused to the user. So definitely we have converted that visual into a different one so that we can make it simple, meaningful, and we can analyze in a quick way, right? So these all examples are coming from the good charts by Harvard Business Review Press. All right, so we have also seen that uh, Microsoft Power BI has a separate data storytelling gallery as well now. Now, if you write on Google data storytelling dashboards, so why they are calling data storytelling dashboard? Why they are not simply calling dashboards only? So now the organizations are more interested towards the story rather than just for the simple dashboards. And these are some of the examples. And I have also mentioned the link here. So after the session, you can visit them. And these are not the dashboards which are just created on Excel and BI, that are created on different kind of softwares as well. So every software which you are using, either of Microsoft or any other, um, the practices of best visualization techniques are now being changing. And this is one of the most my favorite link is COVID-19 data stories gallery, and this is the Power BI Microsoft.com. So people have made a lot of interesting dashboards, but these are telling you the story. And as I told you that if your domain is suitable for that particular dashboard, you will understand it more better. Otherwise, you will be a general audience and just going through the colors or any other fancy fonts or ideas. All right, so I have also mentioned some of the learning sources, and you can go for these books or influencers, and mostly you will find them on Twitter. So this is a list of particular 8 references, and you can follow them on Twitter or you can find out on Google. So you will find them very easily. And these are some of the very famous and in-demand data storytellers who have worked a lot in their domains. There are also books which I can recommend you, and you can start studying if you create dashboards in Excel or any other application. So it's a data storytelling and let's practice. These are 2 separate books. You can go for it. And also this is a big opportunity for you. There was a conference, well, online conference on data storytelling virtual summit on April 28, 29, 2020. And the best part is that the recordings are available. So if you are a user who are making dashboards day in, day out for the organization, and you want some good, fantastic ideas regarding how to tell story with your dashboards, so you can watch all the recordings available on this link. So it would be a great resource to your stuff. And that's why this data storytelling is important now, because if we understand with this brain picture, we have 3 different memories: iconic, short term, and the long term. So iconic memories, it's just like we used to see patterns or familiarity with the help of charts or any other object. If we go forward for the short term, when we hear any story or when we connect any context with our past experience or we get any interest, so it becomes a memory as a short term in our brains. And for the long terms, definitely we need some action which can connect with our emotions, either positive or negative or neutral. So data storytelling is all about short-term memory and a long-term memory rather than going for the typical or just a general idea. So now this is important, how data storytelling drives and what are 3 important components. The first main part is the data, definitely data, and the data should be clean up, right? And we have different kind of tools available. For example, in Excel, we have Power Query to transform the data. In Power BI, we have also Power Query. So first you have a clean data, you create visuals, and then you make some narration. So you engage, explain, and enlighten, and then the change comes, right? And that's take a lot of practice and the references as well. You will learn from the community of data storytellers with the passage of time. All right, so let me move towards the second part of our today's session, that is how to create some dynamic charts. I have given you the fundamentals of data storytelling with the help of some examples. Now let me just change the screen and let me share the Excel part. All right, so I hope now you can see the Excel application, and we will discuss 5 different kind of dynamic charts, how to prepare them, and that can be very wonderful if you can utilize them on your Excel dashboards or any other kind of a report you want to make. So the first dynamic chart we will be creating is how to get the um, top 5 or bottom 5, and this particular exactly is an approach, is a dynamic approach basically, and we will be using the conditional formatting data bars in it, so it will look like as a visualization, right? So first, I will go to Developer tab, and in the insert, I will click on this option button. So I will insert two option buttons, Control C, Control V, and quickly renaming this, right click, edit text, and I will write top 5. And then for the second option button, I will go with bottom 5, right? Now I need to prepare a formula, a logic here in the sales column as well as in the products column. So there are, if you see in the data, you have 20 products with different number of sales. And we just want to, whenever I click on top 5, the top 5 product names and sales will extract from this data. And whenever I click on bottom, so the vice versa will happen. So I need to create a logic here. So equals to, all right, one more thing is that I also need to link this object, which is the option button, to a blank cell as well. So don't forget to do it. So you can just simply right click, go to format control and click on cell link. All right, so now I can create a logic here, equals to if this cell, which is the I2, is equal to 2, right? So if the I2 is equal to 2, when it will be equal to 2, when I will click on bottom 5 option button. So when this logical test will get true, so I will put a logic, one more logic in the value of true function argument. So I will say that give me large. I will select the array here, which is from C3 to C22, and I will make it absolute by pressing F4 key. And I want to extract. OK, it's a bottom, so I have to use the small rather than large. And here I need to use the rows function, so that when I drag and drop to the downwards, it generates a serial key within these cells. So rows function can create a serial number as well if you put the dynamic name range. And if I click on top 5, so definitely that I2 will not be equals to 2, it will be 1. So whatever I will be writing in value false, that will be applied here. So there will be a same logic, but with a different function, and this time will be large. Selecting this array. And one more thing, that you can also create a name range instead of selecting the ranges manually and creating them into absolute. You can also create the name range as well. Then rows for creating a serial number, making the first cell absolute. All right. So I got the bottom 5 sales number from this data. And when I click on top 5, so I got the top 5 numbers from here, right? And now I also need to get the product names as well for the bottom 5 and for the top 5 as well. So what I will do is I will simply apply the index and match. So if you have used index and match before, you can understand it very easily. So what I need is, I need in the index array, I need the name of the product. So I have selected a range from B3 to B22. Then match function, which will definitely give me a relative position of particular sales. So the lookup value is in G5. The lookup array will be the sales column. That will be a 0 for the exact match. And I will just copy and paste it. So when I click on top 5, it gives me top 5 products and their respective sales. And when I click on bottom 5, bottom 5 sales, right? And you can add more interesting visualizations, like this time I am using data bars, right? And when I click on top 5, it changes. When I click on bottom 5, it gets changed, right? So this is how simple, super cool first uh, dynamic visualization you can add in your dashboards or any other kind of report in Excel you want, right? So let me just explain this formula again for the ones who want to understand it. This is simply a if in which we have nested two logics. One is giving me uh, top five numbers of the sales, and one is giving me bottom five numbers of all those sales. And this is dynamically connected with the option button. So when I click on any option button, that condition change in this cell, and that particular function argument execute. Right. All right. Now the second dynamic, or you can say a trick for creating a chart, is we will highlight a high and a low with a different color in the column chart. So let's say we have two columns here, months, Jan to December, and we have some sales numbers. Okay. And we are required to create a column chart which will depict the highest column with a different color and the smallest volume with a different color. Now, what happens normally if we select these two columns, and if I press Alt F1, so all the bars are within same color. And now my requirement is to highlight that highest volume with a different color and the lowest with a different color, so that my visualization, as we learn in the data storytelling, that our brains are visually attract with a different pattern, right? So we need to do in Excel that how we can execute. So I will create two helper columns. One will extract the maximum number from the sales column, and the other one will extract the minimum number from the sales column. And that's also required a logic. So I will be using the if function here. So if C3 is equal to the max of this entire range, which is the sales column. So if this logical test is true, then give me that particular number. Otherwise, produce an error. And I will copy and paste it. Now, why I am producing this hash n/a error? Because these errors are not visible in the Excel charts. So this will be working as an invisibility. And the logic which is here I have defined is simply checking each of the sales number from that entire range. If the number is maximum of this entire range, it is returning me that particular number in the next column. And similar logic goes with the minimum as well. So if C3 is equals to the minimum of this entire range, if this logical test is true, then give me that number, otherwise produce an error. Right, so I have got a minimum number in a separate column, which is of October 213, and the maximum of Jan. Now I will select all these four columns and I will press Alt F1 to get the quick chart, default chart. And now as you can see here that this orange bar is telling me the highest maximum bar, which is from this third column, and this gray bar is from this fourth column minimum. And what kind of technique I would like to apply here, which will be becoming a dynamic whenever next time I will change the number here, I will overlap these two helper columns visual in this particular column chart. So overlapping is very easy. I will just right click on this particular orange bar. I will go to format data series, and here I will make series overlap 100%. And now you can see that the minimum series has been also overlapped and the maximum as well, and the others are remaining with a different color. And as a basic Excel user, you know that how to change all these colors. You can just click on these bars and you can go to the format and click on shape fill, right? So for example, if I want to change this orange bar into a green one and this minimum into a red one, right? And the remaining should be in, let's suppose, in gray color, right? So now next time if I change any number, for example, if I can make June numbers the highest one, so you can see that it's dynamically changing because we have used the technique of overlapping and also the two helper columns as well, right? And if I can make a minimum Jan number, so now you can see that. So you can apply these kind of dynamic charts in your dashboards. So I hope you like this second chart as well. Let's go for the third one. This time we will be using check boxes, and we will create a logic here, and on those check boxes we can include and exclude that particular field from our charts. So how we can do it? I will go to the developer tab and I will click on insert, and from the form controls I will click on this checkbox. So I have inserted a checkbox, copy and paste, which is very easy, control C, control V. Right, so we have got three checkboxes, and on these three checkboxes we will define three different fields: revenue, net profit, and number of customers. So quickly I can rename it by simply right click, and I will rename this first checkbox as revenue. All right, the second checkbox as net profit. The third one is the number of customers. Right, now one more thing which I told you, that whenever you insert any of the objects from this insert tab form controls, you are required to connect this object with your spreadsheet blank cell. So very quickly we will connect this blank checkbox with a cell. So right click, go to format control, and here you will find a cell link. So I will simply select a cell which is B13, and whenever I check mark,
Raim, sorry to interrupt you. Did you get the dialog box to choose the linked cell? Because we didn't see the dialog
yeah,
box. Maybe it was
yeah,
showing on another screen for you or something.
yeah, this is the dialog box of format control.
But it's not showing. Is it on the same screen? We cannot
Yeah,
see it.
it's on the same screen. Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah. So some bug going on maybe with Teams. I'm not sure. Anyways, so sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no
So for
problem.
those who are wondering, when Raim was what was the option that you chose? Properties or something? Or what's the? Can you please repeat again the steps? So format
Yeah.
control, exactly.
Yes.
A window is supposed to show up, but we cannot see it.
Yeah, the window is supposed to show up, but I think it's.
Did you share a screen or did you share the Excel window?
I have shared the Excel window.
So maybe if you want to try to stop sharing
Sure.
and then share the screen, maybe that will help.
So now you can check.
Oh, now we can see it. And I think
Okay,
that happened
great.
before, but okay, go ahead. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt. Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you. All right, so that's very easy to connect that particular option button or checkbox with a spreadsheet cell. It's a simply, when you right click, you will go to the format control, and that dialog window will appear, which is of course format control. And here you can now see that there is a field called cell link. So you are required to connect this object with a blank cell on your spreadsheet. Now, if you can see that when I check mark on this particular revenue checkbox, the B13 is generating a Boolean value, which is true. And when I uncheck, it's generating a false. So this means whenever you use any kind of form control, there are different kind of outputs of these objects. Some creates numbers, some creates Boolean values, right? So based on your logics and understanding and in the visual you want to create, you will get an idea that in which kind of situations you want to have that particular object. Every object will not be connected or used in every situation. So as we use the option buttons here, right? So as in option buttons, it's creating an output of numbers, whereas in the checkboxes it's creating a Boolean value. So either that checkbox will contain a check or it will be a without check. Now for the next checkbox, we are also required to connect with a spreadsheet, and this time one more blank cell. So now from this understanding, you get an idea that every checkbox is independent with every every individual cell. Whereas in the previous example, the option buttons, whenever you make, for example, if you have inserted 4 option buttons and you connect one option button, so definitely all other option buttons will be connected because they are dependent on each other. But when you insert a checkbox and when you connect it, you need to connect every checkbox with a different cell. That's the difference. All right, so now we have connected every checkbox with a cell link with a blank cell, and they are producing either a true or a false based on our selection. Now I will write a logic here. Again, I will be utilizing the if condition, if function. And from this particular example, you are also observing that in the first, second, and a third example of these dynamic charts, if is being mostly used. So whenever you go for the dynamic and interactive charts, if function is basically used very commonly. All right, so let me create a logic. If B13 is equals to true, if this condition meet, so I want B4 value should be here in B14. And if there will be a false in B13, so give me an error. And I have told you that error works like an invisible in the charts. So now I will copy and paste this entire logic downwards and rightwards by pressing Ctrl D and Ctrl R. And now you can see that whenever I just uncheck the revenue, the condition gets false and the errors are produced, which will be invisible in the Excel chart. And when I check mark the revenue, the entire column is being copied and pasted, but with an if logic, right? Now the next part would be to create a chart. So simply we will select this specific data, which have 4 columns: year, revenue, net profit, and number of customers. And I will press Alt F1. So the default chart will come here, and I don't need legend. For the meantime, I don't need years because it's irrelevant information. Now I have the revenue, net profit, and number of customers here. So let me change the number of customer chart type. I want to see as a line chart. So that's very simple. I will right click. I will go to change series chart type. And from here, I will select line. And for the net profit, because we know that the revenue numbers will every time will be a greater than as compared to the net profit. So I can use a technique which is called overlap, and I can overlap the net profit bars. So that's very simple. Right click, format data series, and make series overlap to 100%. And now you can change the colors of the every field if you want, right? Now, this is one of the dynamic chart because when you uncheck the net profit disappears from the chart, and any object, any field which you want to exclude, you can exclude, or any field you want to include, you can just check mark on it. So whenever you want these kind of particular charts, you have to create these logics and checkboxes and do some workings. But when you compare this Excel visuals to the other BI tools, we know that the visuals are already there, but your data and your manipulation and your when you apply the DAX there, that works at very differently. But when you come to the Excel, in Excel you need to start from the very basic and from the very zero. You need to insert the buttons, you need to connect them, you need to create a logic, and then your visual gets ready. Whereas in the different applications, the visuals are ready, you need to have some database changing and the logics only. So I hope you like this chart as well. All right, so the fourth one, this is again a data, and we will make this data as a pivot table. And what we are going to find is we have a lot of customers here. We have customers and their purchase amount. And what we will do is we will get top 10 customers. How to get top 10 customers from a pivot table? So let me put the customer ID in the rows, purchase amount in the values. And now you can see that there are 15 customers here, right? What we need is we need to filter the top 10 only based on the purchase amount. So it's very simple. I will open this drop down menu and I will go to the value filters and then I will go to top 10. From here, you can change the dimension you want, either top, bottom, 10, 5, 8, anything, any number you would like to have. But in this particular example, we are focusing on top 10 based on sum of purchase amount. So we got the top 10 customers based on purchase amount. Now the next part would be to get a chart. So in the Analyze tab, you will have an option which is called the pivot chart. And this time we will create a bar chart. One thing you will observe here whenever you create a bar chart is that your data is going through a flow from customer 1, 4, 5, 7. But when you create a bar chart, your flow of the visualizations are going as a reverse side. So it's showing you 15, 13, 12, 10. So make sure if you want the equivalent flow as compared to the data and the visual, you need to reverse the axis, reverse the vertical axis of your bar chart. So how to do it? Very simple. Simply you can right click on vertical axis and go to the format axis. And here you have an option which is in the axis position category. You need to check mark the categories in reverse order. So once you check mark, now you can see that your data flow and your vertical axis in the same flow, right? But one more thing is that your this horizontal axis isn't on top. So I need to change this as well. So how to change it? In the horizontal axis crosses, you have to click on add maximum category so that it could come downwards again. And now you got the top 10 customers from your pivot table. But one more thing is that I even can't focus on, for example, if someone asks me that who is the fifth one or who is the third one, even still confusion there. Although I got the top 10, but I cannot focus on particular particular customer. So I need to also sort this. We have got the top 10, but we have not sorted it. So we need to sort that as well. So how to sort? Again, you will go to your pivot table, open this filter menu, and here you will find more sort options. So when you click on more sort options, you have to click on descending and select sum of purchase amount. So now you can see that your top 10 customers is being sorted on this visual, right? And as you know that whenever your data gets changed, you change the data source or you expand it or you have already converted that into table. So you need to refresh this pivot in order to get this visual updated. All right, so the last chart which we will be learning in today's session is an how to create an interactive chart. And this is one of the exciting part of this session as well. I hope most of you will like it. And this can be add in your dashboards as well. But as compared to the other BI application, it's very simple there. But although in Excel, we have to create logics from the very basic. So this time in this particular interactive chart, we will have one drop down menu here. We will create a drop down menu, and whenever we click on drop down menu, we will select, we can call any chart. We have four charts here basically on the right side. If you can see sales and cost, profit as a line chart, number of customers versus sale per customer, and then we have market share. So from that drop down menu, whenever I click on any name of the chart, that chart will automatically come in this inside this box. Okay. So let me write four names of this chart first so that it can be added into the drop down menu. Sales and cost, then we have profits, then we have sale per customer, and then we have market share. All right. Okay, so for getting the drop down menu as an object, we will again go to developer tab, insert, and I will insert a combo box. So now you can see that object on your spreadsheet, and this is exactly blank because we have not connected this object as well. And also we don't have filled this object. So for doing that, I will right click on this object. I will go to format control, and here you will find this format control dialog box. And you need to fill first input range. So the input range will be the 4 different names of those charts. And we need to link this with a blank cell. So I have already highlighted here, which is I2. And I will press OK. So now you can see that there are 4 names of all those 4 charts. And the output is in coming in the I2. The next thing is that I need to create the name ranges for all these 4 charts which are above the cells. So I will quickly select this range on which this object is present, on this range which is object is present. And I will go to the name box and give it a nice name, for example, chart 1, right? Then I go to the next range on which my second chart is available, which is of profits. So I will select this range and give it a name as chart 2. You can give any name as you like, but for in this demonstration, I am giving a common name so that I can remember easily. For the next third chart, I am again selecting all those cells on which this chart is presented, and I will give a name which is chart 3. And for the next last market share, I will select this range and I will give a name which is chart 4. Right. So the first thing in this interactive chart, we have inserted this combo box, a drop down menu, right? Then we connected this object with a blank cell. Then we have given 4 different name ranges, and you know that as an Excel user, you can find all those name ranges from the formulas tab and name manager. So we have given chart 1, 2, 3, 4. And now there are 2 more steps we need to do. We need to create a dynamic name range, and we will be using the choose function. So for doing that, I will go to formulas, name range, and I will click on new. So I will give a name first, for example, chart selection. And in the refers to field, I will write a function here which is called choose function. So if you are familiar with the choose function, you can understand it easily, but let me make it easier for you. Basically, choose function uh, picks one particular cell at a one time. And the first function argument of the choose function is to give the index number, which is always a positive number. And from that number, whatever we define in a sequence as a value function argument, it picks that particular thing. Now it can be any cell which contains text or a number, or it can be any image as a paste link. OK, so all those 4 ranges which we have just created as a chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, and chart 4, I have defined all those names here. And it's not necessary that when you define that name range in small letters, you need to write here small as well. It does not uh, conflict with a case sensitive approach, but the spelling should be correct, right? So now what choose function will do, we need to understand this. The first function argument of choose function is the index number, and in this particular function argument, I have referred to the I2. Now I2 is generating a number. So definitely it is linked with this cell. Now when it generates a number, whenever from the drop down menu, when I click on any of the name of the chart, the number is generated. And on that number basis, the sequence which I have defined here, chart 1, 2, 3, 4, that will be called automatically in this particular box. OK, so let me press OK. And the last step will be I will select this blank range, Control C for the copy, and I will make this range as a paste link. So you will find this link picture option in the home tab in the paste area. So I have just selected a blank range, copy and paste it as a link picture. And then I will go to the formula tab. And here I will write equals to chart selection. So the chart selection name range contains a choose function, which is dynamic, right? And let me just turn off the grid lines. All right. So I can make this image a bit larger. So now you can see that whenever from this drop down menu, I select any of the chart name, I click on any of the chart name, that particular chart is being called with the help of choose function and a link image. That's the concept, right? So this is one of the interactive chart which you can create for your dashboards, right? But in today's session, we covered that how to create these kind of dynamic charts. But most important, as a business user, as a business analyst, that the chart should contain a data story, a narration, so that it could be easier to give a true meaning to your decisions, and it could make your life easier. So that's all about from my today's session. And I would like to hand over to Celia for any questions if we have.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Raim.
You're welcome.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, they can find me on YouTube, Excel Basement. They can visit my website, excelbasement.org. Okay, let me share.
I had to leave for a bit. This is Dick Moffat. Raheem, did you explain while I was out the importance of an NA as opposed to a 0 when you're charting your data?
Yeah, basically NA produces an error, and that errors are not visible in the Excel charts. If we go for the 0, or we can go for a blank, writing the 2 inverted commas there. So sometimes the visual is not very much clear, and that vertical axis gets disturbed. So
There's
it
actually a better explanation for that. If you're using a line chart and you have a 0, the
yeah,
line goes down to 0. If
exactly.
you have an NA, there's a gap, which means it's not there. Therefore, it doesn't
Yes.
pervert your chart, right? So NA
Yes.
is not to be afraid of in an Excel chart. It's actually preferred. If it's a 0, it's a 0. If it's not there, it should be an NA, right? Okay,
Yes. Yes.
that's the main reason. Sorry,
Yes.
don't mean to be preachy, but there you go.
Yes. You are absolutely right.
If you want to turn on your video, Raim, it would be great. I'm not sure if that's possible. Anyone else, the same. If you want to turn on your videos, and if there's
Sure.
questions,
Sure.
please go ahead. I have noted 2 questions. One from Henry. Henry, how to deal with unclean data and to surface the quality and assumptions behind the data in the storytelling. So basically, how to deal with unclean data to be able to then do the storytelling portion of your work. Do you have comments about that, Raim?
Yeah, I would like to give a comment, but I also want you to participate as well, because you work a lot with the Power Query, so you know that the data cleaning and transformation is a very painful area for the users and for the people. So basically, data storytelling comes when you have a clean data. If you don't have a clean data, definitely we can't go for a correct visual or any other thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's how you get the data, which kind of tool you do mash up with your data transformation. Generally in Excel, people use the text functions. They go for left, mid, right, trim, clean, proper, upper, lower. They do these kind of combinations in order to transform all the text functions. But in the modern Excel, we know that we can use the Power Query to clean the data. And most importantly, that we need to generate the narrations. And recently in the latest September 2020 version of Power BI, we have the narration option as well, which tells you the story from that particular visual. We don't have in Excel at the moment. We need to write it manually, the
Mhm.
sentence of that, but we have in Power BI now. But I want you to also include your point of view, how you see the raw data into a cleaning up, what kind of those things.
Yeah, definitely. The data cleansing portion is sometimes the portion of the work that takes longer. it's what you need to do first before you start building your query, your dashboards, your reports. And if you don't have clean data, then the rest of the work it's very difficult. So
it's Henry here. I agree that data cleansing is logically the first step. But the gist of my question is really, in reality, there's always varying level of quality of data. And no matter how we cleanse it, there will be still something which is less than perfect. So from a storytelling perspective, my question is there something, an approach that we could explicitly recognize the various level of quality of data and then somehow show them by different colors, different narrations, or whatever, to highlight it as to address this data quality issue explicitly?
Well, can I jump in? Okay, so I deal a lot with cleansing data and all kinds of different data sets. I think you need an example to point to, right? Because the data can be a mess in a lot of different ways.
All right. Okay. Let's have an example. An example is that you've got a field.
Hit
and
us
you've got
with
a
it,
field of categories of saying this is category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, which is in that field. But somehow the data source has got some records which has got no assignment, and you can't cleanse that data. So you've got to make some assumption. So that field for some records that says unassigned, for example. So in the data storytelling, you've got to deal with this unassigned value in some way. So either you show it as unassigned and then tell a story about that, or you make some assumption about the unassigned, I call it, and add it to category 1. And so your category 1 then includes this unassigned, but then itself is not quite true because it's got some built-in assumption. So I
think it's all about context, right? Because the same type of decisions you have to make when you are running a statistical calculations, and during the data collection step of the process, some errors might have occurred. People don't fill the form. For example, if it was a form that was used to collect data, they don't fill all the fields. So first thing starts there with the data collection. If possible, implement all the data validation rules and everything that you can, if possible at all. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you need to work with data that already comes to you and you have no power to control how the data is input. So then it's, as you are saying, you need to make some assumptions. And if you do assumptions, I would be careful to mention those assumptions somehow on the dashboard or on the report, saying that you either eliminated questions or answers that were not valid, you consider them not valid for this and that reason, or you decided to include some type of answers as a certain category, and you provide a reasoning for that as well, because data is not perfect, and if it's not perfect, you need to make some decisions at some point. And that, as I was mentioning, when you are making some statistical calculations, the same type of decisions you need to make, right? You need to decide, oh, this data point doesn't seem right. Is it an outlier, true outlier, meaning that it's the true measure and it just happens to be like that, or is it some kind of mistake that someone made when entering the data? And you need to make decisions and assumptions. But whatever you decide, I think, in my perspective, it should be communicated to whoever is consuming the final report.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the whole basis is when we are looking at data storytelling and visualization, the general assumption that people will make is that the data is there, is fine, and we're basing information on that. But what I suppose my question is really trying to highlight the fact that there's always imperfection in data. And somehow, depending on context, the highlighting the data quality in some way is also needed.
Exactly, I agree with you.
So you were just making a point. You weren't asking a question.
Well, I'm asking a question
Yeah.
to say that somehow,
To get to the point.
if we
Yeah.
are, I'm just trying to see if there are some solutions that actually focusing on data quality as an attribute. So one way that perhaps I suggested that there might be some way that look at different colors. We may have a different field to indicate the quality assessment of that data, or somehow deal with it like that. I'm not sure if that has been done.
Henry, I have one suggestion. First thing is, when you are doing data preparation, if you go to the Power Query and click on View, there is an option for column profiling. So that gives you quality of your data. If you have a null, if you have, Shida, can I share my screen 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
So, well, this is right now talk of the town, and this is about Joe Biden and all their detail. So if you see here, I'm going to close this. What I did was I just have one null. If your rule in data quality is there, this column should not be null anytime, otherwise you want exception, right? All you can do, there is a first step to doing this, is go to your view column and turn on 1, 2, and 3. That gives you column profiling, which will tell you right away. See, your empty cells, 14% of the cells are empty. When you click on that, it even gives you more data quality issue if you have. So if you have errors, it will highlight that how many are empty. One record is empty out of 7. That's the first step. Second step is, if I have this query, so I have this Power Query, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select entire thing and maybe transform that, unpivot that column, and just do the count of the column, how many columns I have and how many I get after unpivoting. You will get, if I go here and say vote per term, you will get here 6 column only. We have 7 records, but 6 column. So what you can do is something like count row and then match it with your original row. That will give you even data quality, and you can load it. But the first thing I'm telling is, let me remove this, and this will give you your first pass into your data quality. Not only one column, but all the columns you will get. That's all.
Right. Thank you.
Vivek.
Thank you so much for that.
That's a good technique.
But you know, wow, this just got me thinking about so many things. Like when I was running a nonprofit, and we would get donations in, and then we would send donations out. And so we can divide things up by first name and last name. So we got Celia Alves, but then we get something, the Johnson family.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we put that? The first name, last name? Do we have a whole different field where we got 5,000 things in it, but then we're only going to have 3 entries in it? Where the hell do we put that? And then the downtown bookstore, where do we put that? And so that begins to mess with the data quality. Yeah, then we'll get a donation in, and we got a first name and a last name, but then we can't read the label with the address on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then how do we deal with the data quality? Well, it depends on, are we reporting the taxes? Are we responding to somebody from the media? Are we responding to somebody who's thinking about making a donation and they just have some questions? So then that shapes the story and the level of detail.
I think you've sort of answered your own question there, Oz, in that if you have only names in your database, then you use first name and last name fields. If it's going to be a mix of names and business names, then you just have one field, which is, Oz Dusoleil and Dick Moffat and Jones Hardware, etc., all in one field. And then if you do a query, you can say, give me everything that starts with Oz, or everything that includes Oz or whatever, but you can't really break them up into first name, last name if you're going to have business names. That's just my data rule. But if it's only people, then fine. Then you break it into first name, last name.
Yeah, so we
Right.
got to come up with a strategy. So
because what's the point in breaking the people and then having some that are just business names? The data can't be used that way. Well, it can be, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all about, each situation is different, right? Each different solution that we are trying to build will come with its own challenges and decisions that we need to make, and depending on the data quality, I don't think it's possible. We have some rules that we collect over the time with the experience, and the next time we will think about something faster because we already saw that happening before. So we have our own set of rules to help us, but each situation is always different from all the other things before. There can be some common ground, but some intersection, but there's always something new to a new problem.
Yeah, and I like Ron mentions, have a column for type, whether it's an organization or an individual. Yeah.
Yeah, there was another question from Gary that is not related to data, but it's related to the form control. And he's asking, when should we use form control or versus Activex control? Does someone knows how to give an answer to this question?
Oh, there's Raheem, the lady's dream. Yeah.
How are you?
All right.
Who wants to answer this question? Form control versus Activex control.
I think most of the times I have used form controls when I want to connect the Excel formulas and logics. Activex controls, moreover, a part of a Visual Basic or a macro. I need to connect that. But in most of the time, the form controls which I use to connect just a spreadsheet logics rather than going for a programming side. But if anyone can more highlight on that.
Dick, do you want to contribute on that as well?
Yeah, I use form controls rather than visual than the
Activex.
The Activex controls because when I use a form control to change a value in a cell, and then I want my spreadsheet to respond to that. And so all the goodness in an Activex control is not necessary for one thing, plus its complexity, right? So that's why I always use form controls. I remember getting laughed at that by Mike Johnstone from New Zealand when I used the form control about 2004 at a conference. Oh my God, he's still using form controls. And to this day, I still use form controls because they work in the model. So
they are lighter and easier to deal with.
Lighter. And initially they were buggy too. By the
way.
Yeah,
because that's what I'm thinking is years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I was told those things, they might have all kind of extra things you can do, but they're buggy.
Yeah. So once you break using it, So instead I'd use an event, like on change or something, and then I'd look at the cell and see if it changed, if I'm going to do code, something like that, right?
Sylvia, we have a hand raised by Angie Wong.
Yes, Angie Wong, okay, has raised her hand from the beginning, but I'm not sure. Angie, do you want to ask a question? Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask something or to type in the chat. I have a question, Raheem. You mentioned the different programs for visualization, for storytelling. When you are starting a project where you want to build some kind of dashboard to tell a story with your data, what are the different indicators that will make you advise the client to go to Power BI instead of staying with just Excel, or the other way around. Advise the client to stay in Excel and don't worry, don't bother to go to Power BI.
Now it's an interesting question. Sometimes we advise to the client, and sometimes client advise to us that we have the board of directors has already decided to go with the Tableau or ClickView or Power BI. So most of the times the organizations already decided, and they then bring the consultant in the organization to provide the solutions in form of dashboards. So we got very less chance to convince the client to go for the BI or Excel. They already decided, and they also see their comfort zone that most of the employees know which application they are going for. Definitely, we don't do sales because we are not the salesperson. We are the consultants, or we can just tell the benefits. We can tell the differences between two different BI applications and also compare the Excel. But as far as my experience is concerned, every time the client has already made a choice or made an opinion that we can go for a BI. Even in Karachi, we have some multinational companies. Their head offices are in UK or any other country. So their head offices already decided to use the BI. So we have, even if we explain 100 of benefits of Excel, they will go for the BI because their bosses are already convinced. So there's a very different approach, and whenever we get a chance, we tell them different aspects as compared to the speed optimization, big data, advanced analytics. So all these main concerns and the challenges we face during preparing our dashboards, collaborations, sharing, and how to make good reports. So most of the times client already decided that what or and which application to use.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
We have
And
a hand raised by Kevin.
sorry. Oh yeah, Kevin. Thank you, Vivek. Kevin, do you want to ask something?
Yes. I got my question a little bit after our topic. Have you guys tried use Python, like a diagram library, matplotlib, or lots scientific pandas, lots diagram library? How do you compare with Power BI or Excel?
How do you compare Power BI and Excel?
With to Python language based, like the lots diagram library. For example, matplotlib.
Does anyone?
Yeah, Kevin, actually, it's a good point. We have, if you are using Power BI, you can consume some of the Python library and all within Power BI. So you're not limited to only the visuals or diagram that visuals are available within Power BI. There is Power BI is much more flexible. In terms of Excel, still that capability is not available, but if you are using Power BI, you can consume your R or Python within Power BI.
Thank you, Vivek.
All right. Any other questions, comments? We are approaching our time to end the session. We can stay for a little bit longer if there's important comments or questions that you want to ask. Otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for joining us, for being with us. It was very nice, again, presentation, Raim. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time to prepare the content. I could see from the comments on the chat that people enjoyed these tricks. Definitely, we can do a lot with Excel, with just Excel, without needing to go to Power BI if you are not inclined to that for any reason. So again, thank you, Raim. Always welcome to come and to share. Everyone else, thank you for joining us, for commenting, for just being here and share with the community. I will send an email as usual. It will probably take me a few days because I will have to upload the video. I have not automated this portion of the session yet. We are not streaming directly to YouTube, but hopefully we will get there anytime soon. Meanwhile, I still have to upload the video to YouTube manually, so it will take me a few days. Usually during the weekend, I'll do that, and I will send an email with the information. Any other information that Raim may share with us, I will send that too. Okay. Thank you so much. Keep your eye on our posts on Meetup, on LinkedIn, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.